So now we have 3 screens. Let's see if we can open these up here. So I've got screen 1, which is the sort of create an account, open the new app here, and we're going just to have this little guy appear here. And what we'll do is we'll have screen 2, screen 2 then appears, still letting you choose your country and stuff. And screen 3, we've got that right there. So now we want to just double check to see how we're going to kind of advance between each of these slides here. So let's take a look. See that we're going to create a little button at the bottom, and we're going to place it at the bottom of each one and have like a little animation kind of play out. So let's go and kind of figure out where we're going to be placing this. So screen 1, we've got this little space here. Screen 2 here. So if I were to go over here, we got this little space here. Screen 3, same as before. So let's create a little button. We can even decide, like, say, make it distinct. We can make it pointy if we wanted to, or less round if we wanted to. We can make it more round. But I'm going to make this little rectangle here. I might make it the same size as, say, for instance, the shape up here. So let me just double check on this. So what's this? What's the size here? This size is about 732 pixels wide. So I'll just click on this and make sure this also is 732 pixels wide. Shape layer 5 rectangle. Path 732. Okay. All right. So I might round this out some. Maybe not all the way, but I'll round it out some. It'll be just a little distinct from the other buttons here. And I'm going to take the fill off. Let's take the fill off. Actually, what we'll do is we'll pause this for just a second here. We'll actually grab this, and what we'll say is so 532 by 208. I'll just 208. Make sure this is unchecked. All right, and then we'll make a new composition here. Composition, new composition, 732, 208. And we'll create that same rectangle here. Okay, just contents, rectangle path. Make sure this is unchecked, 732, 208. And we'll round this out a little bit. And double check that it's aligned to the composition here. And we'll take the fill off. Wait, cancel and take the fill, click on this little no smoking symbol there. Put the stroke back on, make it a solid color. We might make this a smidgen smaller here. We might just take this down some. Say for instance like so it fits in. That's good. In this case, I have it 702, 181 with my stroke at 28 pixels. I might make my stroke, say for instance, like let's try making it something like 15 pixels instead. And so we'll just make it a little bit bigger. I just want this to fit inside this little container here. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'll do the same thing we did before. We'll take a pen tool here, and we'll keep our shape layer 1 selected, and we'll just make a new shape inside of it. And we'll take a look. We'll create this little play button here, this little next button, and let's just double check to see where we're at in terms of making things straight. I'm going to click on this little guy here. I'm going to get a grid, and I'm going to see if I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got a little bit there. We'll just we'll see if we can't center this as much as possible. So we'll just get our move tool here and make sure this is centered. Next bit right. Make sure this is straight up and down. Next bit right. Now I don't like how pointy this is. So I'm going to go down here to my contents for shape layer 1 and find my stroke 1 here, my shape 1. And I'm going to see if I'm going to go to my stroke, and I'm going to say I want this to be a round cap, and I want this to be a round join. And I'm going to do the same thing for my rectangle as well. Rectangle 1 path. So I'm going to say rectangle, stroke, round cap, round join. Okay, I'm going to just rename this next button. And what we'll do here is we'll duplicate this Control D on the keyboard, And I'm going to grab this guy here. I'm going to take the opacity down. So T for opacity, take the opacity down, say for instance like 50% or so. Let's just see how that looks. You can still see that. It looks pretty good. And we'll take the next button 2, and we'll just add a trim path like we've done before. And we can just have it just sort of hang out here somewhere along the middle here. We'll give it like a maybe like 6 seconds in or so. We'll transform it. We'll have it go from start and end. We could even just have it go from end 100%. So maybe like make like a quarter of a second here to 0%. So now like the idea is that we hit the button and then it fills in and then we advance over to the next one. So just a little interactive button. So you tap it and then it fills up and then we advance. So let's add this button here. We'll just rename this to next button. And I'll close this out and we'll just add this in to right here, and I can get rid of this shape layer 5. Yeah. So the idea is we roll through the contact name, and then we hit the next, and then we move on, right? So I'll go to screen 1. It'll add this in, next button here. See if we can't put it in the same spot. We'll put P for position here. So let's just double check. Screen 3, P for position. I have it at 411. Well, we'll double check that it's centered here. So 414, and then 1648. I'm going to so I can memorize here. So 1648. So screen 1, make sure that it's, and then 1648. All right, and then we'll do for screen 2 as well. We'll drag in the next button here. Make sure that's centered. P for position. 1648. Good, so that way we can go back and forth from screen 1 and stuff. So the idea is, once again, we finish our stuff, and then we hit next, and then we go to screen 2, we fill in our stuff, and we hit next, and then we fill in our stuff, we hit next. All right, so we're going to make a couple more things. Let's just take screen 3. Let's actually take screen 1 and Control D, duplicate that. I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call it screen 0. And then I'm going to duplicate screen 3, and we'll call it screen 4. So let's open up screen 0, and let's just close everything else out. And let's get rid of everything except for our duck or our icon, whatever it was. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and I'm going to get rid of this. This is screen 0. So I'm trying to get rid of everything. Okay, and keep the solid as well. All right, we'll keep screen 0, and then we'll screen 4. Let's go to screen 4 here to open up this. And maybe we can just get rid of everything except for the word welcome here. Let's connect with friends. We'll get rid of next button, scroll animation, shape layer 4, and let's just maybe drag this to the center and say, oops. Welcome. And keep everything else the same here. All right, so this will be a good starting off point for making our mockup. We have basically just a look at the various screens here. So let's see if we can create our little mockup. So in order to create our mockup, we want to create like a sort of model phone screen. So this right here is the screen of the iPhone 11 at 828 pixels wide and 1792 pixels tall. So we want to create sort of like the case around it, or at least just the simple, shell around it, so we can see a couple things that are kind of going on. So let's start off by going to composition, new composition, and just double checking. So we get 828. So it's composition, new composition. So we want to make sure it's 828 by 1792. So I'm going to add, say for instance, 20 to the width. And let's add, I don't know, let's maybe add like 60 or so to the height. because we're going to have room for like the top, like the camera and whatnot. And so we'll take a look and see how this looks. I think I might have done something wrong here. Composition. Okay, oops. Once again, 1792. I'm going to put like times plus 60. Okay, here we go. Neat. So let's drag in screen 0 here, and we'll just center this both horizontally and vertically, and that looks about right. So I think I need a little more room, so I'm going to go up to composition settings, and I might add, like, say for instance, maybe like, I don't know, another 60 here. Okay. Sure, that seems fine. All right, so we're going to have some space sort of showing on the edges here. So let's create a rectangle that's going to take up the entire screen. So I'm just going to create this new rectangle here. Make sure the fill is on. I'm going to turn the fill on, say for instance, like dark gray. And I'm just going to make sure, let's see your composition settings. It's going to be, let's make sure that you keep this number in mind here, 848 pixels wide by 1912 pixels tall, at least as far as this one goes. So we'll go over here to shape layer, contents rectangle, rectangle path, size, 848. Go ahead and take off this here, and then 1912. And just double check this is centered here. And we're going to make sure the stroke is off as well. Okay. And then let's round it off a little bit here. Roundness just slightly. Okay. You can see that roundness. I think maybe a little more roundness, maybe 30 or so. That's good. Probably like 100 or so. Okay, so 100 or so pixels, and we'll drag this down below screen 0. So we're gonna have that hanging out there. So that's a good example of this. I think I need a little more room because it's the corners are poking out here a little bit. So I think I'm gonna go to my composition settings one more time, and I'm gonna change this once again. Maybe I'll make this like 860, and I'll make this like 1950. That's a good year, and we can shape layer and scale it up a little bit. That's good. Okay, cool. So 103%. All right. So now you've got a couple options here. What you can do, for instance, is maybe even like make a new shape layer. Let's make a new shape layer here. It's like layer, new shape layer, and just make a shape layer that's like just slightly bigger, somewhere in between what we have here. So I could just make this little shape layer kind of hanging out right above the screen. And and we can just center this, the composition. And what we'll do is we'll actually just keep that dark gray, but we'll change the shape layer 1 of the background to whatever color you'd like. So if you want the background to be like sort of like a pink or something like that, you can always do that. So let's change this fill to like, shape layer 1, fill to say blue. Try it again. Neat. And then we can just take our shape layer 2 here and just maybe extend this a little bit. Let's get S for scale and make it a bit longer and a bit wider. That's good. Just double check that's centered. Okay, and then we're going to need one more shape on top of our screens. So our screens have to be like, sandwiched in between here because we want to make sure we have our little camera stuff because the iPhone has that new, it doesn't have the little button like it used to have anymore. It has this little kind of like shape that's at the top of the screen here. So I get my grid going. And we'll just make sure this is centered. Cool. All right, so this is our little screen here. All right, I'm gonna take this grid off. And now what we just want to do is we just want to double check that all of our screens can come in one at a time. So I'm going to drag in our screens one at a time. I'm going to have them go from top to bottom. So we're from bottom to top here, so stack up. So 4 is going to be at the very top. And let's just have them all sort of, we can do a couple things. We can have them sort of swipe in, or we can have them kind of come into being later on. So what we'll do is we'll just have them all sort of swipe in at the very beginning, and then what we'll do is we'll move our little pieces around down here. So let's just select everything. We'll start off with screen 1, since we want screen 0 to be kind of hanging out there already when we open it up. So screen 4, screen 0, put P for position. Make a little keyframe, and then we'll drag forward, say like half a second, and then keyframe 0, we'll have it be off to the side, so we can just drag this off to the side. All right, that's good. And now it'll just swipe in like that. Okay, so right now it doesn't look like anything because all the different, these are all stacked on top of each other, but let's just make sure we have easy ease come in. Oops, make sure we have easy ease. And obviously we can just affect the incoming velocity by making the incoming velocity somewhere on 90 or so. And now what we'll do is we'll just one by one drag these into being to where they come in one after each other. So for instance, we're here, this comes in, and we just want to make sure that we complete the screen before we move forward. So keep moving this out of the way. Let's double check that this completes here. Okay. So I need to make this a little bit longer as far as the mockup goes. Okay, so let's go to composition settings, and we'll make our duration 30 seconds. Be careful when you type this in. You want to make sure that you type in 30 with a little colon or semicolon and then 2 zeros, because if you just put 30 at the very end, it'll just appear that you're only making it to be like half a second or so. Okay, we can just grab this little. Like to do this fine, yeah. Right, so that completes. This comes in, and then once again we allow it to complete. Allow the play button to kind of go through, and as soon as that's done, this will zip on in, and then we scroll through that, and then allow ourselves to hit the play button. Oops. Double check this solid is continuing on the entire time. Same with this. Same with the bottom as well. Okay, let's double check that this the play button hits, and then once that hits, then we can come in with our welcome screen. Okay, cool. All right, so we're not quite done yet. We're gonna put this onto a bigger screen, so this will be, kind of part one of the mock-up here. So we'll have that available for us in just a second. Let's before we submit this, we're gonna do one more thing to it. Very cool. Save your progress. Okay, so last thing we'll do is create the little screen upon which this whole thing is playing. So we've got. I'll just rename this to call it phone mock-up. And I'll go to my composition and make a new composition and just make sure it's set to this normal HD TV 25 frames a second. Geez, 25 frames a second is just already baked in there. And 30 seconds is fine. As far as the duration goes, the colors doesn't matter because you'll change that later. Because right now that's nothing, right? So press OK here. And as you can see, mine is pink, but once again, that pink is nothing, so I do need to make a new solid. So layer, new solid. So I think I chose this bluish greenish color because my gradients tended to be more like darker purplish and yellowish variations. So they all tend to be kind of dark. So I made mine pretty bright, or pretty pale, desaturated, a little more blue too. So you can choose those. It's much of the same controls, just placed differently. But I'll have we'll drag in the phone mockup here, I'll rename this into like, say, final or something like that. So drag in your phone mockup. And we'll definitely need to resize it. So P on the keyboard for position and just shrink it down to where it fits in. And down here, just toggle this little button until you see this little cube, and click on the cube, the little tick box next to the cube. And that gives us the options of swinging it around 3D. As you can see, we have several different ways of spinning it around on different axes. So in this case, the y-axis swivels it around like, along like a vertical axis, and then X, back and forth and stuff. So see if we can't lean it back onto its side. You can have it facing any direction you want, but let's see if we can't lean it back to where it looks like we're sort of, looking at the phone as it might naturally fall, just kind of in our hand. So we can sort of see how this app looks, from a certain angle, and then push the whole thing over to the side, so we can have some text in the background. So I have a little text that'll, kind of come in and give us some promotion here. So I want this to sort of swipe in. So I'm going to make keyframes on the position, and I'll make just 2 keyframes here. And I'll have the first keyframe be off screen, any direction. It doesn't matter which direction it is. So I'll have it be off the side. I'll have it coming from the left. So it swipes in, and I'm going to try to make it to where it comes in before the first screen advances, so we can see that little animation of it advancing forward. So I'm zooming in here just so I can pull that in. Yeah, that's good. So we can still see that little animation happen. That's good. All right, so just finalize that, finesse that, and then let's put in some text here. In this case, I think the text I put in, you can put anything you want, but I just made a fresh new app from, and then just make sure you put your name in there somewhere. And I decided to put new and app on different lines, and then make them a bit bigger, and just make from sort of spaced out. So, just take what you just go with whatever direction feels right for you. In this case, we're mostly just again trying to just advertise our app. In this case, our app doesn't do anything. It's just the opening thing. It's just trying to show off the the marketing aspects or the design aspects, which is again one of those things people still pay for. People pay for aesthetic all the time. Just think about the last time you bought a jacket. There's several jackets that you could have chosen, and you just decide like, well, I like this one for a variety of reasons, one of which is the way it looks. So, okay, I think I left my name alone. I'd experiment with like having it go off to the side, like on the left or the right, but I decided to keep it, just have it be there. So if you go to paragraph, you can align things differently, but I just kept it like kind of hanging out there. I'm not the biggest fan of the way it looks, but it's just your name. So. And we'll have this come in. Now, if you go over here to presets, you can actually find presets that are already made for, say, for instance, text. So I found a couple of cool text animations that come in word by word. I'm not a big fan of things coming in letter by letter. I mean, obviously that's up to you, but just find under text or animation presets your text, and you have animate in a variety of prepackaged animations that you can use just to place on top of your text. I had caps lock hit, so that's why it turned black like that. So if it ever turns black, just read those little instructions. So that comes in. That's fantastic. You want it to go out. Make sure that you add a animation out. So find your animation out, and then you can find a variety of things for it to animate out. Now I accidentally put in letter by letter here. I don't like that, so I'm going to have it go out word by word. And I want to make sure it happens after the whole thing is done. So you can drag it on top of the little red bar there. So there it goes. And then I'm going to slide this little slider back here just to where it'll end before, so I don't have like just 5 seconds of nothing happening. So with the little welcome screen on there, I'm going to have the phone fly out as well. So maybe around the same time the text flies out, I'll have the fly out too. So P for position, and you can just make a new keyframe and just have it go any direction you want. Just have it fly out. So that's kind of fun. All right, so in this video, just to refresh, we did a couple of things. We created a button, this is based off of what we did before with the animated icon with the trim paths. We created a button that will essentially advance our app forward. We created little transitions of our app changing pages on our little phone mockup. And now we've created something that we can actually put onto, say, for instance, Behance. So every step of the way, we can actually go through in After Effects, and we can take all these different videos here, we can export them, and we can put them on a little package on Behance and just say like, hey, well, this is what we've designed. We designed several little pages. We can show you the animations that we opted to put in, and we can show you how the whole thing will look once you hold it in a phone. And here's this little promotional material at the very end here. So this is from kind of talked about a good way of packaging your user interface design, and it's one of those things. All right, well, very cool. Export what you got as an MP4, submit it to D2L. Can't wait to see you guys produce. See you in class.